Hello and welcome back to the Skipper's View podcast, episode 227, brought to you by Chinook Seedery. Use the Skipper's View as your discount code to get 10% off your sunflower seed needs. Always feel free to go check out statsoldier.com. It's a website, I would say, not directly affiliated with the Skipper's View, but our CEO, Dean Siriaco, he went and created that with a bunch of his buds, and it's awesome baseball stats to play around with and create your own stats. So two things we always mention as we start off. Hagen, Sunday, we decided to wait till after. As you can see, I'm a Packers fan. Hagen is a Mets and Broncos fan. We didn't do a bet. I feel like we should have done a bet on this game, but start off our week, close out our weekend, or start off the week, I should say. You get the much-earned W. My Packers, they are now without Micah Parsons, it looks like, for the rest of the year. So I'm ready to throw a chair out the window once this is over. Outside of that, how are you? We're not a football shop, so we'll talk about how we're doing and then we'll jump into it.
I'm obviously very happy right now getting a big win over the Packers. As I told you, obviously I got a few buddies who are Packers fans. Had a wager with them on this game. Obviously, I kind of really don't know how we didn't have anything on this, I guess, but I'll take the bragging rights though. But very happy, get the 1 seed. So very happy. You'll know we're going to start the show off on some news. Going to turn that around for me very quickly.
Yeah. No, good for you. I'd be happy too. I'm happy for you. I'm mad for myself, self-pity. And I honestly deserve it for how much shit I've talked to my friends about football this year. That being said, we had a massive week in baseball. Winter meetings concluded. Let's jump right on into it. So I'm going to let you start off with this topic. You're wearing the hat. Mets have had a week. And I think the biggest thing that, I guess, Diaz happened before the Alonso news, correct?
Yes. So Diaz happened about 24 hours before that.
All right. Well, walk us through where you're at mentally with the Mets, and then I would love to hear your comments on them missing out on Alonso and letting him walk.
Yeah, so Pete Alonso, obviously everyone knows by now that he signed with the Baltimore Orioles on a 5-year, $155 million contract. Obviously $5 million more than Kyle Schwarber got, which surprised me a little bit. I didn't think he was going to get more than him, but it really sucks because I was a big advocate on bringing Pete Alonso back, and David Stearns just didn't really feel that same way about him. There was reports that said they were reluctant to go over 3 years. It came after, too. They really didn't have a huge desire to bring him back. And I guess logically thinking about it, we saw the same thing last offseason too, so I should have seen this coming a little bit more, especially a team like Baltimore that was willing to spend and go give him those 5 years. And I've always said if he was going to get 5 years, he's not going to be a New York Met, because I've stood on the fact that David Stearns wasn't going to make more than 4, although it was 3. But it really sucks. I mean, this is someone that, I watched Mets baseball since 2015 pretty religiously, so I've seen this guy's whole career. Him and Nimmo were the first guys that I saw their whole careers on the Mets and left. Obviously, in my lifetime, that's probably that hurts the most out of it. DeGrom's 1, Alonso's 2. So it's really sad, but it's also, you got to look at the aspect of this Mets core has done absolutely nothing. They have an NLCS appearance to show for it. Besides that, they had a wild card appearance where they blew the season, they blew the division in 2022. So it sucks to have Pete Alonso not in this team anymore, and I really want him back. But David Stearns has a plan. And he's shown that he didn't have a desire for Alonso back, which means that he's had a plan in mind. And obviously, we'll get to that a little bit later on what they did. But I trust him going forward here. But it does suck to see that Pete Alonso's not going to finish his career as New York Met.
Yeah, and Pete Alonso for me, I'm a New York guy. I don't have anything against the Mets. Alonso, obviously, this is his first team that's not the New York Mets. He's been in the league since 2019 when he was 24 years old. He's 30 years old. I don't understand why the Mets, and others thought that he was not or shouldn't get paid. Like Schwarber's a dog. Don't get me wrong. We talked about in the last episode, if you look at, I think it was age ranges 28 or 29 through 32 years old. It was like Judge, Schwarber, and some Hall of Fame. I totally forget who it was who dominated those years. And then Alonso's younger than Schwarber, right? Alonso has been 7 seasons, and factor in one of them was the Mickey Mouse season, 2020, where they played 60 games. Alonso's only not been an all-star 2 years in his career. And it was 2020, the Mickey Mouse season, where he got 60 games, and let's be honest, he had 16 home runs in 60 games. You replicate that through a full season, guys hit like almost 50 bombs. He would have been an all-star for sure. If not, he would have been a guy that we talked about at the end of the year that was snubbed from the all-star game based off his end-of-year statistics. 2021, also not an all-star. But in 2021, he had 37 home runs. He batted 262. Like, he's a dog at the DH position. And also first base. Schwarber can't field. So I am confused why the Mets were not, more persistent on this guy, especially the crowd loves him. He has an awesome nickname. He is a New York Met. It's disappointing to go see him play for Baltimore. One, I'm a Yankees fan. I don't want to endorse that guy more times than I have to. And two, he just felt like a Met. And it felt like, exactly as you said, this core, they really didn't have much to show for it between like Lindor and Alonso, Diaz, and there were several other pitchers I would include in that core the last 5-6 years, like staples in the pitching staff, but we don't need to talk about them. It's just Alonso going to Baltimore it's massive. And then I think it's a shame that he didn't get more looks. That's my ultimate stance. I don't care what the underlying numbers say. If like there's some, if you just look at his Savant page, like last year, ex-WOBA, 96%, ex-slug, 98%, average exit velocity, 97 percentile, barrel percentage, 98, hard hit percentage, 96. Like, it's all in red. His whiff rate isn't that high. Like, yeah, he strikes out, but, like, he's not really, like, I don't consider him, like, a big strikeout guy. And if you look at Baltimore's lineup now, second base, Jackson Holliday, Gunnar Henderson, short, Jordan Westberg, third. Alonso, first. That infield is stacked. Then you go to the outfield where they obviously just acquired Taylor Ward, who is a really good player. They got Tyler O'Neill right now playing DH. Beavers at the other outfielder with Colton Cowser. And then batting ninth, predictably, would be their catcher, Adley Rutschman, who's a dog. He had a bad year. Or a bad Adley year, we'll say. What do you think about Baltimore, Hagen? Let's flip it to that. Like, do you think that this is, outside of pitching, we know they have a lot of pitching woes. Batting, do you think this is the piece that like makes them a World Series contender batting lineup?
I feel like they have to get a pitcher first before I would say they're a true, like, I would think they can win the World Series. I think they're a true contender now, though. I wouldn't say they're one of the favorites right now, but I do feel very confident they're going to go get a pitcher, whether it's a Edward Cabrera in the trade market or they get a Michael King that came out today they're in on, and his market's closing in here soon. So I just think they really needed one more guy at the top of that rotation for him. And then this is a World Series team and one of the most complete teams in all of baseball. I mean, they shored up their bullpen with a few signings too, which I really liked. I love Ryan Helsley on a bounce back there. Maybe get another reliever in there too, but this has got to be one of the top 5 teams looking forward right now in baseball, especially if they do add that starting pitcher. And it kind of goes to show too, like just the AL East as a whole right now is just an absolute juggernaut. I mean, you could say it's the best division in all of sports right now. Obviously, the Yankees are World Series contenders. The Red Sox are looking to be World Series contenders. The Orioles, we're talking about them already being that. And then that's not even factoring the Blue Jays, who just blew the World Series in Game 6, went to the 11th inning, didn't win it there. Then they go out and they sign a Dylan Cease. They get a Tyler Rogers. They're in on Kyle Tucker and Bo Bichette still. I mean, that division is incredible. And that's not even mentioning Tampa Bay.
Yeah, and Tampa Bay, we'll talk about them in a little bit. A couple like sneaky transactions they're making. It just seems to me, besides the Yankees, who we can talk about now, they signed a Matt Rosario. I tweeted about it. He's a good bench bat, but the Yankees are like they need a splash or two, and like the AL East just seems way more active than any other division right now in baseball. There might be, I don't know the exact numbers if like a bunch of teams have made a bunch of small deals or acquisitions, and I'm not taking a total count, but it seems with the paydays, the activity, the notoriety of who they're going after, Blue Jays, Orioles, Rays, Yankees, like it sounds like everyone, everyone in the American League East, the Red Sox, like we know they're about to make a splash. And they already have done some stuff this year, but like they have already gone Sonny Gray. That people forget they still have a Jaron Duran sitting in their back pocket in case they want to move it. They can go nuclear and make a massive deal, the Red Sox. And I think that would be, if they are able to move Duran, get a really solid bat and maybe even an arm, or another reliever that's on the higher end, Red Sox are going to be gross. But yeah, needless to say, Orioles, they are a lot better today than they were, last week after this signing. And I hate that the Yankees have not made a move yet, really big. Let's jump though. I organized this because, like, really what we got going on this week, outside of a few tidbits of baseball news, is all transactions. So, hey, again, let's start with the National League East. I think there's no better place to start. And let's talk about the Braves. Mets arch rival, they ink Robert Suarez to a 3-year, $45 million deal. So this guy, for those who don't know, will most likely be the setup man. He's going to be right in front of Raciel Iglesias, who is the well-earned closer there. Is this now the best 1-2 punch for the 8th, ninth inning in baseball?
I honestly really haven't thought about it in that sense. I think it's definitely one of the best in all of baseball. I don't know if I would want to coin that the best right now because I'm a big believer in Raisel Iglesias. I thought he got a little unlucky last year, and I think he's going to bounce back off of that. But I think it's definitely one of the best out there. But like you said, with Suarez there too, obviously the 3-year deal, it lines up well too. I mean, Jeb did a good job of breaking it down too on what it means going long term. Where Iglesias is on a one year deal right now, so you can say like the Braves who don't like to spend all this money on bullpen typically like that. It's like you're paying $45 million for a setup man, but once Iglesias is gone after this year, you have Suarez as your closer for the next 2 years. So that's the way that I think the Braves are looking at the deal, which I really like it from that aspect. You had a good velo there in the back nine. I mean, Suarez is one of the top closers in Major League Baseball since 2020, and you have him in your 8th inning this year. Like that's great.
Yeah, and Iglesias hasn't had less than 29 saves since 2022 when he was acquired from the Angels. So let's be realistic. He was moved at the deadline. He had 16 saves with the Angels, and, probably weren't that many save opportunities, honestly, in Los Angeles. So comes over to the Braves, gets one, finishes the year with 17 back in 2022, but last year, 29 saves out of 70 games, and he threw 67 and a third innings. In those innings, he had a 3.21 ERA. Like, that's really still pretty solid. I trust Iglesias. I really like him. He's a guy I almost always take in fantasy. If you were in my big league, I don't even think people have noticed that. I always have Raciel Iglesias. I just always take him. People sleep on him. They go for the bigger names as closers. I'm like, Iglesias is good for 20. I don't need to, bet on someone or I don't know. I just play it safe. But I think this is an elite 8th, ninth inning setup. I had a real hard time the other day when I posed this question for you. I had a hard time thinking about it, and that's why I did pose the question. Like, okay, who's the best 8th, ninth, setup and closer? And I think there's a million ways to answer that question because if someone's like, oh, Roki Sasaki, it's like, okay, now we're including starters in here, like the Mason Miller and whoever could be, it like bad example of Mason Miller. But you know what I mean. It could go in a million different ways. I think the Atlanta Braves have done an awesome job to bolster that bullpen that definitely needed help. They have a really good rotation right now, and they could add another starter and be like an elite rotation. They probably would you consider Atlanta's rotation elite at this point?
Ooh, I mean, the rotation is pretty. I mean, you have Chris Sale's going to come back this year. You have Spencer Schwellenbach. You have Strider too. I know he dealt with a little injury last year. Ronald Lopez should be back too, I believe, and then
Dude,
Waldrop. I think that's got to be one of the top rotations in all of baseball right now.
dude, if they sign one arm and let Hurston Waldrop be like their fifth, sixth guy instead of like relying him as like a 3-4 guy, and Waldrop looked really good last year when he pitched. Uh, Schwellenbach was injury ridden all year last year, and let's not forget Spencer Strider was recovering from a massive, massive injury and still was pretty solid. So yeah, I think the Braves is this finally the year. All this talent that Alex Anthopoulos has accumulated down in Atlanta. Is this the year they finally break through and like show us their true strength of what they could be as a team?
I mean, I think it's just a health question almost. I think last year too we saw like I was big last year that the Atlanta Braves, like even as a Mets fan, I don't hate a single organization in sports more than the Atlanta Braves just because they've always just dogged on my team every single year. but the Atlanta Braves are just terrifying to me. I
Oh,
think a lot of people have written them off. Like going into last year, they were the second most talented roster I stood on behind the Los Angeles Dodgers. You have a guy like an Acuna last year when he came back, he was incredible what he did when he came back last year from injury. You have you have a full healthy season of Acuna too. Like he was dealing with that injury, then got hurt again, but you have a full season of Acuna alone. I mean, he was putting up absurd numbers in the short amount of time he was in playing this year. But this team is still very scary, and right now I'd probably say they're the favorites in the National East.
yeah, and like if you look at their lineup, we didn't even mention. So one of our guys, Sam discussed baseball, was like really into this early on. Yastrzemski getting signed by Braves. He was quite texting us like, "Guys, got a little tip. Do I tweet this out or do I be respectful?" And like he was respectful about it. Didn't do it because he's the freaking man. Um, Yastrzemski gets a 2-year, $23 million deal. Now, I don't think Yastrzemski is necessarily the bat that like puts you over, but if you look at it, Baldwin, catcher, rookie of the year last year. Who's their other catcher? Sean freaking Murphy. First base, they got Matty Olson, Alvin at second. Shortstop is their big issue. I don't know if they, obviously Mauricio Dubon is the play right now. The Braves would, I think, be pushing all the chips into the middle of the table if they went out and got Bo Bichette to pair with Austin Riley at third base. And that does so then their outfield becomes Yastrzemski, Jurickson Profar, and Michael Harris and Ronald Acuna, a mix of those four essentially. And it's safe to assume Marcell Ozuna does not get re-signed to play DH. Do you
I
think?
mean, I just don't buy the Boba Fett thing just because I think he's getting a lot of interest at second base, and he's just not a good defensive shortstop. And I feel like we've seen it since Dansby Swanson days when he was there in Atlanta. Since he's been gone, they haven't spent any money at the position there. It could be they're waiting for a guy like Boba Fett to come up. I'm not saying that, but Alex and obviously has a big philosophy on valuing shortstop defense. That's why they've almost just given you a free out or shortstop position and just taking cheap guys like a Nick Allen who can play phenomenal defense out there, but they can't really hit for shit. So I think they're fine with having Mauricio Dubon play shortstop for him. Because like obviously if they added Boba Fett, this lineup is just even more insane. But the lineup already is really, really good.
If you add Bo Bichette to this lineup, think about this. Michael Harris would probably be batting like
Nine,
seventh or
eight.
eighth or ninth. Like that's how deep this line. Like they would have Baldwin up there early, Bichette probably leading off, maybe Acuna Jr., Bichette batting two, and then like a mix of like Riley, Olson, Murphy batting 4, 5, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever would have you that day, whoever's hot, and then throw Michael Harris and Jurickson Profar in there for shits and gigs. Like that. That is a awesome lineup. I don't know. There's not that many shortstops on the market. I feel like not big impact shortstops this year. And I think if Atlanta really wants to like silence the haters and kind of secure like too good to fail, like you know what I mean. And when I say that, I mean make the playoffs. Like you make your lineup too good to not get to the postseason. But shuts that piece. That being said, we'll keep moving. Let's talk about your team. They made a splash. They signed Jorge Polanco, 2 years, $40 million. What do you think about that for the Mets?
I actually really liked it. That was honestly, I've looked at a lot of different ways this offseason could have gone. And obviously, it's changed a lot. When Nimmo got moved, my plans kind of changed what I was looking at there. Then when Alonso doesn't come back, it was very quickly, all right, we need a first baseman here. And that's what was the surprising thing, too, is it says Polanco is going to play first base and DH for the Mets, which I think it depends. I don't think they're locking him into first base right now. I think they're just going to look and find the best available there for a guy to play first base or DH, which I like this move a lot, though, because Jorge Polanco has a lot of versatility there. I mean, obviously he's going to play first base. He DH'd most last year. He can play second base, too, if they get an injury there. So that's three positions already there. And then in the lineup, too, just having a switch hitter in there, too, is huge, I think, for the New York Mets. Being able to balance the lineup out a little bit there. Especially they struggled against left-handed pitching last year. And like a guy like a Pete Alonso last year struggled against left-handed pitching pretty mightily compared to a guy like guy like a guy like Polanco, excuse me, who actually crushed left-handed pitching last year. Obviously, a little bit not as much the right-handers, but it makes the lineup better against left-handed pitching. And I think it lengthens it out a bit. Obviously, I want to see where the next moves are here. If he's going to be the first baseman or the DH, where they keep him, but it was something I didn't see happening at all, and I actually really like the move a lot. I love Jorge Polanco as a player. He obviously everyone knows him in the playoffs last year. What he did, took Scooball deep twice, had the walk off in that 15 inning game. He's an incredible player, and I really like the signing for the Mets.
Yeah, I think this signing to me, I hate to put a little damper on it, was more of like this is I'm just silencing the haters for a little bit while I like try and like re-strategize what I'm doing. That's kind of what I think GM and Uncle Stevie were doing here. Like Jorge Polanco's good, don't get me wrong, but the Mets are like they're talking about going to get Cody Bellinger. They're talking about should they go get Kyle Tucker? Like they need to get Framber, like big names, and it's like, all right, we're gonna lose Alonso, Edwin Diaz, and we're our first way back is we're signing Jorge Polanco to replace the deficit. You know what I mean? Like it's just a little sprinkle on the fire right now, but at least they did some. I can't really talk shit. The Yankees haven't done anything besides Rosario.
I will say Jorge Polanco. I think a lot of people look at it like I can see the sense you look at it. Jorge Polanco last year was a better hitter by WRC plus, which is all of your offense combined into one number, right, pretty much. He was a better hitter than Bryce Harper, Fernando Tatis Jr., Bobby Witt Jr., Junior Caminero, and Francisco Lindor.
How is he better than Bobby Wood Jr.?
Bobby Witt Jr. still had a down year offensively. I think his WRC plus dropped like 40 points, and it was still 130. Like
Who else is that?
Polanco's 32.
Lindor, Witt Jr. Who else?
Bryce Harper, Fernando Tatis Jr.
Damn. Okay. Well, Tatis didn't get started till late, right? He had a really like bad first half, or down for him, I should say. I shouldn't say. Right? Am I
Yeah, he did.
remembering his
Yeah,
season?
he took him a little bit to get going.
Unfortunately, I didn't have any shares of Tatis Jr. in fantasy, so he just was not one of the guys who like I know their numbers. Um, well, let's talk about another team in the last team in the NL East we'll cover. Marlins. They're taking a flyer on Christopher Morel to play first base. So my first thought about this, like Christopher Morel, I feel, and correct me if I'm wrong, has been hyped up like that. He's just got a lot of like overall talent. Obviously, he hasn't put it all together for an entire season, but I don't know what it is. Peter Bendix, Miami, taking a little flyer gets me excited about Christopher Morel this year. What are your thoughts on this move?
I absolutely love this for Christopher Morel. I believe they said he's going to play first base for him too,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken here. So I love them taking a flyer because you're a team like the Marlins, a young, exciting team that has tons of pitching. They're looking like they're going to trade one of those guys and then probably get either more prospects or a bat return. Like I think they're going to take a huge jump this next year. I don't know if they're going to be a playoff team, but they're going to be right there in the mix. I mean, they were right there in the mix till the last week of the season this year. Like it's not going to be insane if they make the playoffs, in my opinion. Like obviously, there's a lot of good teams in the National League, and it's very deep. But adding a guy like Christopher Morel, I think is why not take a flyer on a guy like this, especially because it's going to be a cheap deal. Like it's not like I know they don't spend a lot of money, but if it doesn't work out, he's either on your bench and you save him for later, or you just cut your ties with him and you only lose a couple $1 million in there. It's not like you're paying him $15 million a year here. So I absolutely love this deal. And I think Peter Bendix is one of the smartest minds in all of baseball. I think he sees someone in here. Obviously, Morel he barrels the ball a lot. He hits the ball very, very hard, has some of the highest bat speed in all of baseball, hits the ball very hard. I absolutely love this signing for the Miami Marlins.
Yeah, I feel like the Marlins and like anytime like there's like a Tampa Bay or Dodgers executive that gets involved in a deal, and like I'm talking about now, like when Dodgers and Tampa Bay executives leave and go to other teams, like I'm always paying attention just because it's like these are smart organizations. They somehow make it work each and every year, and they come from opposite sides of the spectrum. You got Tampa Bay, who's not flush with cash, and they somehow put together a somewhat competitive team year over year. Some years a very competitive team. And the Dodgers, a lot of teams have money. Everyone makes it seem like the Dodgers and the Yankees are the only teams that have money. That's a very bad, look at baseball. Like you have Boston has money. The Cubs have money. They just don't spend ever. The Dodgers obviously have money. The Yankees have money. The Angels have money. The Angels always go out and sign like guys. Yeah, they're usually a little bit late on guys, but they sign. And the Dodgers have money and they make it work. They put together a competitive team every year and people could say, look how much they spend. Look how much the Yankees spend. Look how much the Mets spend. They didn't make the playoffs this year, the Mets. And they spend just as much as anyone. So I have to give kudos to that, and I think Christian Morel, this is just like one of those deals that I think is going to slip through the cracks that people are not going to like take note on, and then it's like we get to fantasy season, and if you took Christopher Morel in your 18th round of your draft at first base and like slept on the position to take care of everything else, it's a shallow outfield pool this year. Christopher Morel ends the year with 25, 30 home runs. Didn't have to focus on the defense as much because he's playing first and just focused on, hitting. I don't know. I love it. Kind of like it. So let's jump to the NL Central. The Milwaukee Brewers have done some intriguing stuff this so far, and I want to close out on Peralta because I want to talk about him for a little bit. But let's talk about this trade they struck up with Kansas City first, and then some other acquisitions they made. So, for those who don't know, the Brewers last year, were they the best team in baseball, Hagen, entering the playoffs by record?
Yes, they were.
Okay. So I just wanted to confirm that. Should have looked it up before the show. The Brewers were the best team in baseball by record. And so far, what they've done this year, they acquired Isaac. They traded Isaac Collins, who had a very nice run with them last year for a little bit, and Nick Mears, who also was very solid last year. And they sent him both those guys to the Royals, and in turn, they received left-handed reliever Angel Zerpa. Is this a move? I should have included Milwaukee, by the way, in that Tampa Bay, Los Angeles rant. Milwaukee's also very smart. Is Angel Zerpa going to be like the next setup god here?
I mean, there's a lot to look forward there with Zerpa. I mean, a left-handed pitcher that can throw close to 100 miles an hour, if not 100 miles per hour. It's something everybody wants. It's almost like the Jose Ferrer, where you get a guy who for Seattle gets him from Washington Nationals, where you can get a guy who hasn't had true really success yet by any means, or then you can get him and you're not surprised if you're eighth inning guy, seventh inning guy, whatever it is here. Especially with Milwaukee, I know he traded Mears way in this trade too, but it still sounds like Trevor McGill's out there on the market. There's a few other relievers that are on the market, or at least they're listening to offers on. So this seemed like I feel like this was Milwaukee just saying we really want this guy and we see something in there that we can change and maybe unlock a new level on him. We're willing to give up a little maybe more value than people would have expected here because Isaac Collins, I believe, took third in Rookie of the Year voting last year, had a 120 WRC plus, a 3-win player, and obviously a good reliever in Mears too. So I thought Kansas City did a great job in this trade, and I would say they probably won it, but it's always intriguing to me when there's a trade like that and you see a team like Milwaukee target a guy and give up maybe a little bit more than you would have thought they would have given to get him and what they think he can become.
Yeah, and they also signed Akil Baddoo this week, and Akil Baddoo had a nice little half season or season with the Detroit Tigers, like what 2-3 years ago at this point. They signed him to a 1-year deal, so they're getting outfield depth right now. They got Andrew Vaughn. Is Andrew Vaughn a free agent?
I do not believe so. He's on the roster resource right now.
So they're going cheap on the infield, but they got Vaughn, Bryce Terang, Caleb Durbin, Joey Ortiz, and then their outfield right now: Blake Perkins, Jackson Churio, Yelich. Just signed Akil Baddoo, and I'm very confused at what they're doing because all we hear now is that they're looking to move Freddie Peralta. And if you look at the Milwaukee Brewers depth chart right now, this is weird because it doesn't have Mizorowski on it. Oh, they have him in the bullpen. But the rotation for next year would be Quinn Priester, Freddie Peralta, Jacob Mizorowski, and I guess Tobias Myers.
With Woodruff in there too.
Woodruff is not on, for some reason, he's not on MLB.com's like Brewers page for rotation or the bullpen on the depth chart. Maybe he's on the 40-man just injured. Did he get injured at the end of the year? And I missed it.
No, he's pretty good. I'm on Fangraphs right now, and they have him on the roster resource.
Yeah, he's on the 40-man, but not on the depth chart. That's weird. But yeah, and Woodruff. So the Brewers are potentially shopping Freddie Peralta because they don't want to pay the guy next year. What do you think the Brewers are really trying to do? Like, what's their MO this offseason coming off the best team in baseball entering the postseason last year?
I feel like the Brewers, and I think this is just a sense of, I think a lot of very smart organizations, like, I don't know if they're really trying to trade Freddie Peralta by any means, but like, just look at the Brewers model. When they have a guy that's going to reach free agency, we saw it with Devin Williams last year, with Josh Hader, with Brandon Woodruff. We've seen this before when you get a top player and they're going to become a free agent outside of Christian Yelich, really, they look to trade him. They're not saying, hey, we don't have to trade him, but we're going to have listen to offers on anybody. There's really not going to be that many untouchable people besides like a Jackson Shorty or a Mizorowski at this point, but they're going to listen to offers and they're going to say, hey, we're not going to pay him next year. We can take our qualifying offer, or with the pending lockout, the qualifying offer could go away. So you could get nothing for him if that goes away after this. But they're saying, let's just get someone for him now instead of, because we know we're not going to pay him. Or you could have the argument too of go all in now with him and try one more year and see what you can do with this team, because the rotation's really nasty. But they also have a guy like we didn't even name, like Chad Patrick. It was great last for him, 3.5 ERA and 23 stars for him last year. Like they have the guys to slot in the rotation immediately if Peralta's gone. But I don't really know what I think they're going to do right now.
They're a weird team. I have no idea what they're trying to do. Obviously, they're well managed. They're overall managed as an organization. Yeah, we'll see what they're trying to do. I would love the Brewers to go out there and acquire some starting pitching depth, even though they do a really good job of producing in-house talent and they have arms in the bullpen. They have arms in the rotation that are really good. We'll see how everything plays out, but I totally think the Brewers are a team that they could go make a splash and go sign like a few guys on not mega contracts, but like get like quality MLB guys and get them plugged in. Why not try and make a trade maybe with St. Louis? Actually, I don't know if St. Louis would do it, but like go after Nolan Arenado, try and get him, or like even bringing up Bregman. Like he's right now going to the Tigers as what everyone's proclaiming, but if I'm Alex Bregman and I'm reading right on the wall that the Tigers are looking to trade Tarek Skubal here, why would I sign with Detroit? He's your best asset. I don't like that's how I would look at it if I'm trying to win. I guess Bregman's looking for the money, but I guess he would be trying to win too. Let's look at Milwaukee. They've done weird. The Cubs, they've reached agreements with Hobie Milner, got a 1-year deal. And they also signed a minor league deal with Colin Snyder, but he got a non-roster invite to spring training. So we'll see how that works out. Chicago definitely had a scarce bullpen, to say the least, at the end of the year last year. So the Cubs really need to do a lot. I think they were really good last year. At the same time, they need to do a lot in order to make this like a real championship contending roster.
Yeah, and just real quick on this Hobie Milner signing, I actually really love this. I thought this is one of the most underrated signings of the offseason. People who know me know I love relievers a lot, and I think this reliever market too. Like there was over 100 relievers in this market at the beginning, like that are major league level pitchers. There's so many good relievers out there that people don't talk about. I think Hobie Milner was one of them. Obviously a sidearm guy, so it gives you a different look there. He's going to give batters weird angles to the way his pitches are coming in there. And an interesting note that I was looking into and I found, and I put it out there on Twitter, is the Cubs made 2 bullpen signings this year for their major league roster, at least. Phil Maton and Hobie Milner. Those are the only 2 major league relievers to sign this offseason that have an average fastball velocity under 90 miles an hour.
Damn.
It's very interesting. I mean, if you look at a lot of other guys, too, that Chicago has in the bullpen, they really like those guys who can get weird angles and stuff like that with low velocity. And obviously, Phil Maton, I think is probably the most underrated guy, I would say, of the offseason so far, too. Phil Maton's an absolute dog, but just because he throws 89 miles an hour, a lot of people really don't look at him that way. But I love these 2 signs with the Cubs so far.
No, I love your enthusiasm for it. I'm a little down on the Cubs. I'm kind of a Cubs hater just because I had to deal with the fans when living there, and they kind of stink. I'm definitely Team White Sox in Chicago. To me, this is like a poor Mets version of the offseason right now. You're sprinkling little deals to figure out, and I know not every acquisition is going to be like, oh, someone signed X for $100 million. That's not how baseball works. That's how the best players get paid. I just think like the Cubs are not getting Kyle Tucker back. They clearly had starting rotation depth issues. Be fair, their best pitcher Justin Steele was on the shelf all year last year, but is Justin Steele and Shota Imanaga and a combo of a couple like good young rookies? I forget names right now. Um,
You got Matthew Boyd in there, Cade Horton as well.
yeah, Cade Horton was excellent, and that's the rookie I was thinking of. But they also had the tall guy Ben something, I think, long 6'9" kid. Do you know
Yeah, Ben Brown, who
Ben Brown?
you do not want out there in the rotation for you.
Yeah, so it's like, am I going to get excited about a rotation led by Justin Steele coming off massive surgery and a however old Shota Imanaga is? Like, no. Like, and Matthew Boyd's also super old. It's just they need to do a lot. This is a team that should go out there and be like knocking on Framber Valdez's door every day until he signs. That's what the Chicago Cubs should be doing.
And I believe too, there has been reports that, like, I know, like, an Alex Bregman too in the lineup they've looked at, and the possibility of moving Matt Shaw somewhere else, or maybe even trading Matt Shaw, maybe if they're looking to get a pitcher. But I think there's been reports too of them getting a starting pitcher because, like you said too, this rotation, like, I don't think it's bad by any means. Obviously, you'll have Justin Steele, you'll have Matthew Boyd, Cade Horton, Shota Imanaga, and Jameson Tyone there too. But like, there's not really anyone that you're like right now. Obviously, Cade Horton can take a big leap there, but like, and Matthew Boyd's great, but you're not like looking at that rotation and being like, this is a top five rotation in baseball. They have a lot of like kind of matching the bullpen there too. Steele and Boyd and Shota are all kind of soft tossing lefties. Like it's kind of weird in that sense. Obviously, Cade Horton can be an outlier from them in that sense too. But if I don't know, it's like I think it's deep and like it's not like a weak rotation by any means. I would say it's not a top rotation.
It's mid. It's mid. It's
Yeah,
exactly what it
mid.
is. Like they got some guys and they got some issues. Like, and they believe too. I think that what they're doing is too much of the eggs in the same basket. Like it's like once a team learns how to get like hit lefties that are throwing off speed pitches, what are you gonna do? You like in a series, you're screwed because like you only have so many options in a postseason series of who to throw out there. But let's talk about the Cardinals, rival of the Cubs here. They went out and acquired Dustin May for a 1-year deal. Dude, I'm in on this just because I love Dustin May. I would love to see some results from him. And I think the Cardinals are due to like start playing Cardinal baseball again. So we'll see. It's a new regime. John Mozeliak is out. Hein Bloom is in. If anything, what I've learned from what Hein Bloom can do, watch out. St. Louis looks like they're going to become really good here soon. So, any additional thoughts, Dustin May? Or are you the same boat as me? Like pretty pro positive here.
Yeah, I like this deal a lot for him. I mean, obviously St. Louis has some money, so it doesn't really hurt to go out and spend there, especially teams looking like they're going to retool this year. Obviously, Brendan Donovan's one of the most hottest commodities of the trade market right now. You know that Nolan Arenado is not going to be playing for the Cardinals in 2026. He's going to get traded somewhere. Hein Bloom pretty much said that on LB Network the other day. So there's going to be a lot of just a youth movement in here, and they're going to see, like, all right, who's our core going forward? Hein Bloom is known to find talent. Like, look at the Red Sox farm system. Look at all those guys they had. Yes, maybe on the major league side he's not the best, but like just finding talent to play for a major league team, he's incredible at doing so. So, and I think a guy like Dustin May, if there's a rotation spot for you, fills innings you were going to need anyways. And best case too, if he's really good, you trade him at the deadline because he's going to be a pitcher on an expiring contract with the lockout looming. So teams are already going to light that right away. When Dustin May is on, he could be huge. He could be a 2 or a 3 in rotation, probably a 3 when he's on. But he can be an incredible pitcher in rotation for a team, and he won't be making too much money too at the time. So great trade chip too for the deadline.
Yeah, absolutely. A 1-year deal, and if he's rocking and rolling by the deadline, and the Hein Bloom's like, all right, time to cash in my chips. That was a great acquisition. If not, they walk away from him at the end of the year, and Dustin May's career is likely heading towards the end, unfortunately. Like, he's got all the talent in the world, and he's still relatively young, but, he's been injured. He's been battling issues, I should say, injury, new cities, and, would love to see it work out. Just don't know. Nothing's ever guaranteed in this life. So, boring news. D-backs bring back Merrill Kelly. That means the Yankees are not going to go and sign him, which I'm kind of thrilled about. The Yankees, we mentioned this Rosario stuff. Tyler Rogers, he's heading to Toronto, jumping over to the American League now, on a 3-year, $37 million deal. And there's one thing I've learned this offseason. It's the year of the relievers getting paid. Relievers are starting to get really paid in this league, which was, not a big thing in baseball. And now you got Diaz making $20 million a year, or however much he's making. You have Uh, Robert Suarez is getting $15 million a year with Atlanta of all teams, who, has been notorious for their cheap, I call them cheap, but they're early extensions on younger players in order to avoid paying the big bucks later down the road. And now you got this deal going on where Tyler Rogers is getting north of $10 million a year. He's getting north of $12 million a year to be a setup guy for Toronto. Dude, is Toronto, at this point, do they even need Bo Bichette to return to the World Series? Or do they have to go get another impact bat in order to, continue this momentum and, solidify their chances of getting back to where they, just missed the World Series title this year?
I think they don't really need it by any sense, just because we still had the length of their lineup last year and what 1 through 9 they did as a team. Especially when Bo Bichette was out for a little bit last year, too, towards the end of the season we saw them. But, it totally changes them. And they want to spend all this money right now. So I think right now I view them as the favorites for Kyle Tucker. And I think it's either Kyle Tucker or Bo Bichette. If they miss out on Tucker, they'll bring Bichette back. I think if they get Tucker, I don't think Bichette will be back at that point. But this team is so good. And real quick on the Tyler Rogers aspect, too, this is one of my favorite. This really sucked. I really wanted the Mets to go after him. Tyler Rogers is such a nice addition to a bullpen for a few reasons. Obviously, the arm angle. It's a submarine arm angle. Imagine going from Trey Savage, who has the highest arm angle in baseball, to seeing Tyler Rogers throwing 50 miles per hour slower from the lowest arm angle in baseball. It's a different look. We see it in the playoffs especially, that you're seeing the same relievers every single day. Louis Varland pitched every game, I believe 2 in the playoffs this year. You're seeing the same guys. You're going to go through the same players sometimes, 2 in the order. If you have a guy like Tyler Rogers, that's a completely different look than anybody else, and it mixes things around there. And it's just a hard angle to get used to in the first place, too, which is great. The second thing, too, that's really important on him is he pitches almost every day. He pitched 77 innings as a reliever. He's pitched at least 70 innings for the last 5 years as a reliever. And this year, too, a sub-2 ERA, a 1.98. He had a 2.88 FIP, which is still very, very good. And then he keeps the ball on the ground. He gets the ball on the ground a ton. Tyler Rogers is one of my favorite free agent targets this year for the Mets when I was looking into things. I think this is an absolute phenomenal signing by the Toronto Blue Jays.
I tend to agree, unfortunately. Yeah, it pissed me off. By the way, I was mad at you before the episode for wearing that Broncos jersey. Do not mention Kyle Tucker going to the Toronto Blue Jays over the Yankees. I will throw up here on live podcast. Dude, I don't know if Kyle Tucker's going to be a Yankee. I don't know. I don't even know how Kyle Tucker feels about the Yankees. He might not like the Yankees, for all that I know. Do I think the Yankees have a shot? Yeah. But I think ultimately they're going to end up getting Cody Bellinger back. So we'll move on to Tampa Bay. They made a few sneaky acquisitions. Jake Fraley agreed to a 1-year deal worth $3 million. And they signed Cedric Mullins to a 1-year deal as well. So the Rays bolstering the outfield. This is interesting. I'm not going to take too much time on this just because it's the Rays right now, and I need to see what the rotation looks like before I really understand how good this team can be in 2026. Anything on the Rays from you, or do you want to jump to the AL Central?
I was going to say this quickly. I've talked to Ethan from the OPS about the Rays this year, kind of what their plans are. And the biggest thing he said is they just need people in the outfield. Their outfield, they just needed to improve that. So these are just 2 little small moves there you can improve. Take a shot on a guy like Fraley, and then obviously get the defensive in Mullins last year. So I think two good signings. Obviously, it's just role player signings you're doing to just help bolster a young club.
Yeah. Yeah, that they're a young club, and I think Ethan's probably the best person to go to for Rays information. Detroit Tigers, they signed Kenley Jensen, who's the active saves leader in baseball. He's joining for a 1-year deal. Kyle Finnegan's going to return to the Tigers as well, so the Tigers are really locking down that bullpen. Is it enough? Maybe, but Tigers have been in the playoffs back-to-back years. But Skubal, the Tigers have gone there by Skubal being the best pitcher in the world for back-to-back years, essentially. Is he going to continue? I don't know. History says the longer he goes, the odds get smaller and smaller that he continues this run. So we'll see. I have all the faith in the world of Skubal to be a top 5 pitcher this year, no matter what. But Detroit just needs to do something big. They need to get an Alex Bregman in order for me to take them like very seriously as a contender. That's just me, a hater on the Tigers speaking. I'm not trying to hate on them. I just, they really haven't won in my lifetime. So how can I believe in them if you've never won? Cleveland, they signed Colin Holderman to a 1-year deal. He was on Pittsburgh. He's a reliever. Excellent last name for a reliever, Holderman. So, Cleveland obviously needs some bullpen pitching after Emmanuel Clase and who's the other guy? Ortiz is the other guy who got in trouble.
Luis
Ortiz.
Yeah.
It sucks for Clase double, even though like shame on you for betting and tipping, like doing that, but you're the guy who's going to be remembered forever in this betting scandal, not Luis Ortiz. Like Luis Ortiz is going to carry on his days without being remembered. So they get Colin Holderman.
And Holderman, too. I know it's not a very sexy name by any means here, but a great bounce back candidate here. Obviously, the year before Pittsburgh was 2022 or 2023. He had a phenomenal year as a setup man over there in Pittsburgh. So the Guardians are very good in their pitching development. So I think they definitely see someone here. And it's not going to be surprising me if this guy turns into a very good seventh inning guy again.
Yeah. The Royals, they make a splash. They give their guy, Michael Garcia, a 5-year extension with an option for 2031. So he's guaranteed $57.5 million. And through the club extension and escalators, he can get up to $85 million. So Garcia got himself paid. Love to see that for him. Kansas City is also taking a little flyer on a 1-year deal with outfielder Lane Thomas, who was utterly disappointing last year. We'll see if that works out. They obviously were, looking for outfield depth. They were kind of tied to Yastrzemski all offseason. Yastrzemski decides to go with Atlanta. So this is, I guess, the plan B for them is Lane Thomas of what they could afford and what they could attract to come to Kansas City. Any big thoughts on Garcia or Lane Thomas?
Lane Thomas, obviously, they wanted some outfield help, ended up going cheap on it. Obviously, you miss out on Yaz there. And I love this for Michael Garcia, one of the most underrated players in all of Major League Baseball this year. Finished 14th in WAR. For people, I don't think a lot of people realize that. Like the 3 people ahead of him, even just go like the guys above Michael Garcia going upwards. Jeremy Pena, Julio Rodriguez, Juan Soto, Francisco Lindor, Jose Ramirez, Corbin Carroll, Trey Turner, Geraldo Perdomo, Shohei Ohtani, Bobby Wood Jr., Cal Raleigh, and Aaron Judge. Those only players had more WAR than him last year. That is superstar level status.
I don't know any of those players.
Yeah, people don't really know him that well.
No, that's a fantastic list to be a part of. Like for anything, honestly. So Garcia got himself paid, and that's what we love to see is just guys earning contracts and getting paid. Texas, they went outside Danny Jensen for a 2-year, $14.5 million deal. So Jensen's 720 OPS in 2025 was better than any other catcher the Rangers have had over the last 2 years. So it sounds like we're getting a real improvement here at the catching position. And catcher's super, super important, especially from a hitting perspective. Fielding is obviously a necessity to be like an excellent fielder, or else you're not catching. And then to be able to hit while catching is a plus. And Danny Jansen, hopefully he could revive the Rangers from this 2-year hangover from their World Series title, back in 2023. They also went out and signed Alexis Diaz and Tyler Alexander, 2 relief pitchers. Anything on the Rangers' movements this week?
The Danny Jansen thing to me is more of just, I feel like they're just, obviously Jonah Heim, they didn't tender him a contract, so you spend $1 million or $2 more a year and you get Danny Jansen, maybe even cheaper overall if you factor in the 2 years, I believe, Heim had left of arbitration. So kind of taking a shot on him. I guess you just kind of say we like Danny Jansen better than Jonah Heim at this point for around the same money. So that's the way I viewed that deal. And then nothing really. I think take a shot on Alexis Diaz. Obviously, a few teams have done that recently. I think he's a guy that teams are always going to take a shot on him for the next few years. It hasn't worked out recently, but there could be something in there still.
Yeah, and last but not least, or saving the best for last, which I'm being totally sarcastic here, the Angels went out and got Alek Manoah on a 1-year deal. I will never like this guy. His MLB debut was against the Yankees, and he I don't know if you remember this, he killed it. He was doing the stank face and all that, and I was just like, dude, earn your stripes before you start talking. I get it, you're up, but he did it against the Yankees. I will never root for this guy. In fact, I will root against this guy. So have fun in rotational hell and down in Los Angeles, who they seem to be putting little pieces and band-aids all over it with Grayson Rodriguez and Alek Manoah and such. What do you think about this Alek Manoah deal to the Angels?
I mean, I can see why you don't like Alek Manoah. I mean, this guy has literally done absolutely nothing in Major League Baseball since they asked him what pressure was, and he said pressure is something that you put in tires. He's done nothing since then, and he was a Cy Young contender when he said that. So a few teams have taken a shot on him after last year. We saw it too, like the Braves and stuff, after the Blue Jays DFA'd him. But the crazy thing to me was the fact that I was like, okay, Alek Manoah to Angels. They're going to take a shot on someone. Why not? There might be something in there still. Maybe new organization, get a new look, whatever it is. I think it's insane that he's going to actually be in the Major League rotation. That they came out and said he's going to be in our rotation. That blows my mind. Like,
Well said.
What the hell are you doing?
No, well said. The Angels just love like adding guys who had a big name in some way, shape, or form at some point in their career, and taking flyers on them, hoping that they still have a little juice and that they could squeeze that last remaining juice out of them. And it's like, you do what the Yankees do. I don't know if you heard that. My dog just farted while we're on. That was a loud one. But the Angels do that. They the Grayson Rodriguez, super talented prospect, super injury prone. They're taking a flyer, and they might have won that deal, honestly. 4 years of control. But Anthony Rendon, he was like kind of, cooked. I when they signed that deal, you got and like obviously they've hit on Trout and Ohtani, but there's so many guys they've missed on. So many over the years. Albert Pujols, they took a big bet on him. Didn't work out. But we'll see how they play. I can't hate on the Angels though for at least trying. There are teams who
That's the thing. You can't hate on. That's the thing, and like I can see with Alek Manoah only making just under $2 million a year, he really doesn't have to give you anything as a starting pitcher. Like, he gives you 50 innings at a 4 ERA. That he paid off that contract already. Like, so I can see that. Like, you get a 4.5 at 80 innings. That's already going to get your value back on what you give. It's more just the fact of like, why the hell do you want Alek Manoah at this point? Like, I will eat my words on this. If he ends up having less than a 4 ERA this year, I will come on here and I will apologize to Alek Manoah personally. But it's just like, I would rather just spend $4 million more and get like a Jose Quintana.
Or get a Merrill Kelly. Like, like someone, just not Alek Manoah. If you're being serious, like, exactly, go get a Quintana to be your 5. Go get a Merrill Kelly to be your 2 through 4, depending who's available and what Grayson Rodriguez health is at. Go get Framber. Framber's not falling off a cliff. Yeah, is he 31? Yes, but he's an elite ground ball thrower. You have money. Go spend it on a guy who, candidly, he crossed over his crossed up his catcher this year. There's a lot of teams and players are not happy with him for doing that, and that's like a big thing. They could get him on discount. They could give him a 1-year deal or a 2-year deal with a massive, like an opt-out, and give him a massive AAV since it's only 1 year. Do something besides signing Alek Manoah. I didn't know I was going to get this worked up about it, honestly, when we started talking about this, but it's just frustrating.
Yeah, I didn't think Alek Manoah was going to eat more than 20 seconds of airtime, honestly.
Last takes from me and Hagen this episode. We got Phillies manager Rob Thompson. He got a 1-year contract extension through 2027. Is Rob Thompson, 1 year is not a lot of faith. What do you take that anything more than that, or do you think that's a red flag for Rob Thompson only getting 1 year?
I can see that point of like not a lot of faith. I believe he had a couple of years left on his contract, or maybe it was just the one. But either way, you think it would be more years you would give your manager there. But really, no strong thoughts on that at all.
Okay. I don't know. That just seems weird to me. I guess the Phillies have fallen short in the last couple of years. Maybe it's time for a shakeup, but their core's also getting old, and they've dealt with significant injuries the last couple of years. So we'll see. The San Diego Padres and D-backs, they're going to play in Mexico City on April 25th and 26th. So the Mexico City series, their games are a part of the D-backs home schedule, for those who are actually wondering. Bet the over. Balls fly out of the park in Mexico City. And finally, Colorado Rockies, this is kind of like their first big managerial shakeup since bringing in how do you say his name?
Uh, DePodesta.
Paul DiBattista. Sorry. They bring in Josh Burns, so he's going to be the new GM after his success with the Dodgers, and Josh Burns seems to be a brilliant baseball mind that people really like. And he's young. He's 55. I think that's not that old at this point to be a general manager. Um, what do you think about this?
I think we're just seeing a culture shift for the Colorado Rockies. They've just been such an incompetent organization for all of my life that I've seen the Rockies. I mean, they didn't even have a stuff model for the team that plays in the highest altitude. You'd think they would be the first team to like think of that, but they didn't even have that until about last year. There was an article from Yahoo Sports. I believe it was Jake Mintz that wrote that. So that was earlier this year, but I think that we're seeing a shift now with Paul DePodesta coming in here. They were a very hot team in the winter meetings. A lot of people wanted to talk to him and just kind of see going forward because it's a very fun job for all these GMs and guys because they want to show that I can turn the Rockies into something, and with this altitude, I can do something with the pitchers here, and I can make a good ball club here. But we're seeing moves that they wouldn't have made before. I mean, they're getting forward thinking guys in these organizations now, which I think is a great sign for the Rockies and their fans.
Yeah, and Josh Burns, for those wondering, he was with the Rockies from 2000 to 2002. He's been in baseball since 1994. The guy's got a ton of experience. He also has been with the Dodgers from 2014 to 2025. That should say enough. If you have a executive level job with the Dodgers for the last 11 years, you're doing something right. So that's it for me. Hagen, anything else for you before we close out?
Yeah, I know you vaguely mentioned it earlier on the show, but shout out to Sammy Scoops, to Sam Fosberg to discuss baseball for breaking that Mike Yastrzemski news. That's honestly amazing. Obviously, first break from him, first scoop that he put out there. That was awesome to see. And congrats to him on that.
Yeah, congrats, Sammy Scoops. I love that nickname. Thanks for listening. Follow us on social media and grab merch from the store. Read some of the articles posted this week. I've been terrible about posting. I will be back on my game this week. I promised Dean I'd have 2 out tomorrow. So, um, anything else, Skipper's View? We're just really closing out for the holiday season. I think we're going to regroup and re-strategize about bringing more people onto the fold. But thanks for listening again. Continue to like and subscribe to our stuff. It helps us out. And we're out. Bye.